Oh, hey, hi, how are you? I saw you in there.
Hi, my name's Hazel Amelia McDermott Grace the Third, Esquire.
Oh, that's cool. My name's Augustus Gloop.
What are you doing with that cigarette? Don't you know I have lung cancer?
No, it's okay. I'm not gonna actually light it.
Oh, okay, that's a relief. This is getting weird. What are you doing?
It's a metaphor.
What exactly is the metaphor here? Though it certainly isn't this douche nozzle's definition of one. The Fault in Our Stars is a 2014 teen romantic movie thing. It's about life, sort of, or is it about death? I don't know. It's contrived, and structurally it's confusing, and at times it's so ostentatious that I cringe. The plot is so goofy that it's palpable with the soupy overtones that only the young adult section of the library can bring us. Now let me be absolutely clear. If you liked The Fault in Our Stars book form or movie form, that's fine. You can like it all you want. I still like to watch the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon from the 80s, and that was terrible too.
Smooth move, Michelangelo. What are you doing with that stupid cap on?
But if you're not familiar with the teen sensation John Green, here's some backstory. In 2005, his first major novel, Looking for Alaska, debuted, and it was quite a hit among young audiences and even older ones alike. It was a romantic tale about how a boy met a girl whom he lusted after, and spoilers, I guess, she subsequently dies in a drastic drunken car crash, and he has to go through an existential crisis. And he has written roughly the same story, sans a few plot details ever since. I mean, it's basic. Yeah. In Mr. Green's defense, writing stories isn't easy. I know, I'm not trying to personally attack him, nor am I going to necessarily say his work is bad. What I'm more concerned with is the fan reaction to his novel and subsequent film adaptation. I've read countless accounts from critics who have felt unmoved by the story, me included, and they have been berated to the extent of virtual harassment, cyberbullying. Some really harsh stuff is being spit out by those who love the book, which is just unacceptable. And you know what? If I even say one nasty, unliking word about The Fault in Our Stars, I'm gonna get crucified. So I'm gonna do that. Whee! Number 1, the plot. So the plot is really rather simple. It's almost too simple, actually. Girl has cancer. Girl meets other dude who has cancer but doesn't anymore, but will later, and they fall almost instantly in love. Like, that's it. That's my first major flaw with this film. This isn't some epic love story about two people who live a lifetime in a small moment. It's about two people who very easily give in to romance because they are very well could be dead soon. Better do it now. And I checked. I haven't read the book, but the reviews for the book say that the exact same thing is what happens in the book. These two just instantly hit it off, and the ball gets rolling, and that's it. So, I don't know if it's not just an adaptation thing. I mean, sure, there's a little will they, won't they hinted, though it's hardly there, and it's mostly, yeah, they will. They're gonna fall in love, okay? And if you didn't see that coming, you didn't, what are you, 3? Okay, I mean, okay, you know right off the back someone's going to die by the end of this film, as long as you read the plot synopsis, and if it was any bit of a mystery going in, that's ruined in the first 5 minutes, as we are not only told that this is a sad story,
about how to tell sad stories.
We're told it in a flashback by our main character, so it's sort of easy to assume that it'll be the other boring kid with cancer who dies. They decide to go to Amsterdam to visit with their favorite author, who is played by the Green Goblin. He turns out to be a jerk, and so they go back home, do some other stuff, and then Augustus dies. That's about it. That's basically what happens without leaving anything major out. Number 2, the characters. Hazel Grace is a whiny know-it-all who thinks she's better than everyone else.
I just want to say that, there's going to come a time when all of us are dead. There was a time before humans, and there's going to be a time after, and it could be tomorrow, it could be a million years from now. And when it does, there will be no one left to remember Cleopatra, or Muhammad Ali, or Mozart, let alone any of us. Oblivion's inevitable. And if that scares you, then I suggest you ignore it. God knows it's what everyone else does.
She's the usual trope of 16 years old, has the world figured out already, but, she doesn't. Admittedly, she has a little more gravity towards the whole human condition thing, I'll give her that, but that can only take you so far. I mean, beneath every sick person, no matter what the disease is, there should still be a real person there, right? And that's where a lot of these characters just fall flat. We're just sort of assumed to like them and identify with them and feel sorry for them because they have cancer. A character flaw can't literally be something out of the character's control. That's called an antagonist. The antagonist of this film, I'm assuming, is cancer and the inevitability of death because of things like cancer. Your antagonist can't also be your protagonist's character flaws. We see a moment in Hazel's life that's going to drive most of the rest of the plot, which is her love for this one book.
I like the color.
Mm-hmm. This is the Dried family. It's going to be a big deal in our house every year.
We should do it every... An Imperial Affliction.
Yes. I'm so glad that you liked it.
Yes, I did. But the ending.
I know, it is rather abrupt.
Rather abrupt? Are you kidding? It's evil! I mean, I understand that she dies, but there's an unwritten contract between author and... Yeah? Cool? Sure. Between author and reader. And I feel like ending your book in the middle of a sentence sort of violates that contract.
Yes!
She notes that one of the major things that irks her about this book is that it seemingly ends mid-sentence. And this right here tells us all we need to know about Hazel and her juvenile outlook on life. She won't accept an ambiguous ending, not really. Teen literature and fiction, for the most part, follows a pretty narrow set of paths for its story, much like this film. It has a neatly packaged ending. Whether they be happy or sad, they don't really have any unanswered or provoking questions to the audience. They're a whole, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that inherently. It's just that those stories are really predictable and usually forgotten, and especially if they're done poorly, they're just gone as soon as the next set of young adult pieces are produced. They don't really reflect well on anything other than the microcosm that is the story they tell. Now, I'm not saying we've all got to all of a sudden make Harry Potter a drug addict who struggles to pass potion class because he's constantly getting high, and that the ramifications that this has not only on him and his friends, but the entire wizarding community as a whole, because he's the chosen one supposed to defeat Voldemort. But then there's a reason Harry Potter follows a traditional formula and doesn't get that gritty. Hazel wants Harry Potter books, not, say, Tim O'Brien's The Things They Carried. There's nothing wrong with Harry Potter, to be honest. It's just a different kind of novel than that one. But Hazel is, after all, 16. But yet we as an audience are supposed to see her as this otherworldly goddess of intelligence who's got it all figured out even when she doesn't have it all figured out because she seeks endings. Augustus Waters is one of the most pretentious pair of douchepants that I've ever seen. From the first time he's on screen, I knew I disliked the shit out of him. Just look at him. Just listen to the way he talks.
I'm grand, yeah. I'm on a roller coaster that only goes up, my friend.
Oh, and can we just get and talk about this metaphor thing for a second? This stupid and just... Okay.
It's a metaphor, see? You put the thing that does the killing right between your teeth. But you never give it the power to kill you. A metaphor.
Buying these cigarettes is giving into the industry that sells the potential death in a stick. Like, you are supporting with your own money an industry that can help cause the killing thing, as you put it, and every pack you buy further contributes to the success and promotion of that industry. You are literally giving hard-earned dollars to an organization who would rather make a profit and worries more about the bottom line than the suffering of human lives. And you're doing that just so that you can make some smug, stupid metaphor?
Yeah, no, it's just a metaphor. He puts the killing thing in his mouth, but he doesn't actually give it the power to kill him.
Well, that metaphor, it's prohibited on today's flight.
God, it sounds so stupid when you say it out loud. I mean, fucking... Ugh. He's an entitled little shit beyond the cancer. He read a novelization of a video game, for God's sake. A novelization of a video game! Also, holy shit, we have the same poster. The last major character is the only one that I actually liked. And the movie wanted me to hate him, for the most part. Van Houten. He's the author that both Hazel and Augustus love. He turns out to be an alcoholic recluse who never really interacted with fans. He's harsh. And, I mean, frankly, I'm not saying he's a good person. No. But he's a good character. He's the only good character. He's a real reaction to the situation presented in this film. He's a real person experiencing loss and grief. He's the actual aftermath of the effects it has on those who lose someone so dear to them. He's a drunk because of it. He's angry because of it. And Hazel just wants to talk to him about a stupid book? I mean, okay, admittedly she didn't know that, but of course he's going to react the way he does. Of course he's going to play weird Dutch rap.
You don't speak Swedish, sir.
Who the hell speaks Swedish? The important thing is not what nonsense the voices are saying, but what the voices are feeling.
And then Augustus turns off the music, quite rudely, I might add. Hazel starts demanding answers, knocks a glass out of his hand, and shouts. She's just angered by his lack of giving any explanation. And this is exactly what I mean about Hazel, and thus about this film, and films like it. Demanding an answer like that, requiring an ending like that, tying characters' lives up neatly into bows, that's not how life works. If you want to be a raw drama, that's not how lives work. That's not how disease works. That's not how grief and loss and pain works. This movie claims that pain demands to be felt. Okay, great. I guess, yeah, it does. But then what? Pain demands a lot of things of us. But it won't just magically go away like that, assuming that by feeling pain, that by living pain, it's suddenly alright again. It doesn't work like that. Pain demands to be felt, but having a good cry and watching a sad movie like this won't just wash it all away. Van Houten is despised by the other characters because he's doing the very thing they're not doing. He's dealing with reality and he's feeling his pain, albeit unconstructively. It's there for him every day. They never once look at their own mortality, the scariness and an uneasiness of death, the people they'll leave behind, and the way they'll go. In John Green's novels, one of the trends is to thrust these characters into emotional situations just to bring a tear to the audience's eye, but then have these characters seem to come to the acceptance of the sad thing and probably even move on. And that's going against the very thing Hazel seems to hold on so dear. Pain demanding to be felt? Well, it will be felt no matter how old you get, no matter what happens to you. It might creep on you in an instant without any warning. It might drive you to do some crazy things like Van Houten. Pain will be felt, yeah, but not with a neatly stringed up ending. It'll happen whenever it wants, wherever it wants, and that's what the film's character is so poorly lacking. Number 3, their relationship. The two of them never really seem to have ever a moment of dislike towards each other. There's never a conflict that isn't about their cancer and the limitations that puts on their lives. They don't bicker or have dissenting opinions or show really any human reason as to why they like each other, other than perhaps because they're both attractive young people who are destined to die soon, so they might as well get laid. Honestly, if the cancer wasn't in the way of them living their lives together forever, I really doubt that they'd last a week as a couple. They're just bland on their own, and then they're even more bland together. Sure, it's sad that Augustus dies at the end of the film. I mean, any loss of life is a terrible thing to happen, even in fictional characters, but their relationship doesn't seem really all that faulted because of it. I mean, even after Augustus kicks the bucket, Hazel realizes that What she had was something special. I mean, I don't believe it was, but she does. And that was enough. And then within like a week, she's moved on. I mean, his parents are home grieving over the loss of their only son. They're devastated, but we don't get to see those characters' aftermath reactions. No, it's just Hazel. She's all like, whatever. Whatever. It's a good story to tell. Number 4. Holy shit, did that really just... but fuck all this movie shit, right? It's time for a little history lesson. In the 1930s and 40s, there was this thing, World War II. It was mostly fought because of the terrible dictator Adolf Hitler, who was rounding up people he thought weren't fit to be considered worthy of life en masse and executing them quickly after. Those targeted by Hitler and his Nazi regime would try to hide from persecution. One such person, a young Jewish girl named Anne Frank, was hiding in a small house in Amsterdam in 1933. Her story is remembered today thanks to the discovery of her diary, where she often wrote about her life and struggles in hiding. Sadly, she was later betrayed and arrested from this very house and later sent to a concentration camp where she was put to death. And then 70 years later, the 2 teenagers with cancer climb the stairs in the house and promptly make the fuck out of it! And the rest of the people who witnessed this event are happily cheering and clap as they completely forget where the fuck they are! This is not a small annoyance. This is not a nitpick. Even if the film had been a perfect 10 out of 10, this scene alone would have literally knocked it down to a 5 out of 10 for me just because of the sheer disrespect being featured and then applauded here. This is a place that should be regarded with sobering respect, as it is a capsule for a period of time when man's inhumanity towards man was so openly at its highest during that century. This is not clever or creative. There is no message here. You cannot find an appropriate reason why they had to make out in the Anne Frank house. You cannot tell me that John Green honestly thought that the symbolism of one of the world's greatest bigoted and hate-filled tragedies could be related to 2 kids dying of cancer. Cancer is not a man-made genocide. Anne Frank was killed. She didn't overcome anything in this house. She was arrested and taken away in this house. And you had the audacity to have 2 teenagers share a heartfelt, tender moment here in the very space where Anne Frank was to hide for her dear life. This is terrible. The filmmakers are terrible. John Green is terrible. The fact that no one said, hey, maybe we shouldn't shoot this scene this way is terrible. This is all terrible. Number 5, the dialogue. The dialogue in this movie is just so purple. It's grandiose and pretentious and flowery and just altogether unrealistic. I never believed these characters were real for a second because of the way they always spoke in such perfect soliloquy. John Green characters seem to always have this problem. They're supposed to be teenage students, not even in college yet, and yet they speak with a mastery of language like they're almost robotic in their perfection. I've once heard his writing style described as coming up with a really good quote and then writing a novel around it. I mean, and I'd agree with that. A lot of his words are nice, well-thought-out sentences with a good chunk of extra meaning put in, but they're sprinkled in almost carelessly, or worse, they're shoved into the mouths of characters who wouldn't remotely be talking like this. The characters speak like pompous douches, and that distracts from them a lot, as well as make them feel like characters rather than, real people. Number 6, the big dumb conclusion. So is this movie really all that bad? Besides that part? Yeah, no, it's not horrible, I guess. But it is underdeveloped and cliche and emotionally exploitive of its target audience. It intends to make you cry without really any emotional subtext beneath it. You aren't really attached to these characters, as they're not really fleshed out like real people. You're just attached to their situation. You want them to fall in love, and then they don't because one dies. And that's what makes you sad. Not that because you cared about these people or their deaths. You care that they'll never get to love each other. And that's just... I mean, this is, after all, a teen romance, though. It's safe. It's about 2 middle-class white teenagers who go on the most cliché of love story adventures, except cancer is thrown in and then one of them dies. The thing that perplexes me the most about this movie and the book that inspired it is how highly in regard people are holding this thing. They're elevating it to above standard literary merit when really I don't think it deserves to be any more popular than the likes of Twilight or The Hunger Games or every other young adult novel out there. I mean, hey, if you like it, you like it. That's great. I don't think it's really nearly as good as everyone is saying it is. And why are not more people talking about the fucking Anne Frank scene? It's astounding and infuriating. Justin Bieber writes, I hope Anne Frank would have been a believer at the museum guestbook, and then he gets, rightfully so, shit upon by major media and people alike. John Green and these filmmakers do it, and it's just sort of brushed under the rug like it was nothing. There's nothing new in this film, there's nothing really groundbreaking, and I think that those who like this novel need to just get over themselves if someone else has a different opinion than you. I mean, go ahead, send me all the harassing threat comments and emails you want. I won't start liking this movie. And, you know, if you just allow the big kissing scene to just sort of happen the way it does without once even realizing how problematic it is, well, you know, you're just contributing to a much bigger problem. And I hate you.